Hello and welcome everyone to my Commander deck tech on my competitive version of Prossh, Eater of Kobolds. This deck uses Prossh, Skyreader of Curs, the Commander. This is a combo-oriented competitive deck, with nearly all the cards in the deck focusing on going off with one of your combos as quickly as possible. A majority of competitive Commander decks run blue, however Prossh is one of the few top-tier competitive commanders that doesn't use blue. Having no access to blue makes your deck building much more proactive rather than reactive. You can't just sit on counter spells and card advantage like other competitive commander decks. You have to go off as quickly as possible with one of your combos, or you'll be outvalued by a majority of competitive commander decks. So what combo are we trying to go off with? Well, it's the food chain combo, along with a couple of other less efficient combos. All the combos in the deck get you 4 things. Number 1, they get you infinite mana, just for creatures when using food chain. Number 2, they get you infinite kobolds, which leads to number 3 and 4, which are infinite death triggers and infinite enter the battlefield triggers. Here's some of the pros to using the deck. The food chain combo is one of the best combos in Commander. There are multiple infinite combos. The deck can take out your opponents with damage, and you get your kobolds even if Prossh gets countered, since it's an on-cast trigger. Here are some of the cons to using the deck. No blue, which means no counter spells, although there are a few notable exceptions like Pyroblast. There's no card advantage in the command zone. This deck really suffers under stacks effects and land destruction, and there's no way to win turn 1. Ramp is a necessity in any commander deck. This is especially true in competitive Commander, where games may end turns 1 through 4, and if all you're doing is playing a land and passing, you will fall behind the other players, so ramp is an essential part of victory. Both Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar are key parts of most of the infinite combos in the deck. Also, they're just a really good use of the kobolds. Chrome Mox, Mana Crypt, Mox Diamond, and Soul Ring are auto-includes in every competitive Commander deck. They allow for very early wins, like on turn 1 or 2. Mana Vault is mostly used to pay for the 3 colorless mana in Prossh's CMC. Arbor Elf, Birds of Paradise, Boreal Druid, Elves of Deep Shadow, Elvish Mystic, Finhorn Elves, and Llanowar Elves are all the 1 CMC mana dorks that are available in Jund colors. These mana dorks are a must in competitive Commander, especially in this deck where they could be used as food chain fodder to ramp into Prossh. Bloom Tender has the potential to tap for 3 mana at the cost of being a 2 mana CMC mana dork instead of being a 1-drop. Deathrite Shaman is usually just a Birds of Paradise with graveyard hate attached to it, since fetch lands are so prominent in competitive Commander. Since we run a good chunk of elves in the deck, Priest of Titania should tap for a ton of mana, especially if you're playing against any other decks using elves. Carpet of Flowers is an auto-include in any competitive deck running green, since most competitive Commander decks use blue, therefore they have islands. Cryptolith Rite turns those kobolds into Birds of Paradise, however this card is mostly in the deck for its combo potential. Mana Echoes will pay the colorless part of any spell. However, the card is mostly in the deck for its combo potential. Green Sun Zenith is a 1 mana ramp spell since you can go grab Dryad Arbor. Nature's Lore grabs a forest dual land and puts it on the battlefield untapped, meaning this card basically costs just 1 mana. Crop Rotation can grab Ancient Tomb for some colorless ramp, or grab Gaia's Cradle if you have some creatures on the battlefield. Dark Ritual makes casting Necropotence much easier. It also ramps up 2 mana for a turn, which can mean all the difference in competitive Commander. Even though this deck is fast, it still may fall behind, and removal is a good way of bringing other players back down to your pace if they are out of control. Goblin Bombardment is really good at machine gunning down opponents' mana dorks, or just threatening death if an opponent uses their life total too liberally with a card like Necropotence or Ad Nauseam. Damnation is the Black Wrath of God. You usually don't want to wrath the board since this is a creature heavy deck. However, sometimes your opponent's boards just need to be cleansed of creatures. Hull Breach is a 2-for-1 removal spell that's unfortunately sorcery speed. However, you will usually have a decent enchantment to hit, and you will always have an artifact to hit in Commander. Toxic Deluge is one of the lowest CMC board wipes in the game with little downside, really more upside than anything since -X gets around indestructible. Your life total doesn't matter much in competitive Commander, so you can be very liberal when you pay life for useful effects. Artifacts are incredibly popular in Commander, especially in competitive Commander, so if you can resolve an overloaded Vandal Blast, you'll usually choke your opponent's mana supply and destroy some of your opponent's utility artifacts. Most cards in competitive Commander are under 4 CMC, so Abrupt Decay hits a good chunk of the permanents you'll see while playing, and counter magic is all over the place in competitive Commander, so the can't be counter clause is incredibly relevant. Beast Within hits any permanent, making it one of the most flexible removal spells in Commander. 3 mana is a bit for competitive Commander, but Strength is too powerful to pass up. Nature's Claim is the most efficient artifact / enchantment destruction spell in Commander. 1 mana at instant speed is incredibly good, and the barely downside of that player gaining 4 life is irrelevant. It can actually be pretty useful in a pinch if you need the 4 life. Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast are incredibly efficient removal spells since most decks run blue. They also give you some counterspell protection. Since Prossh has no card advantage attached to him, we need to make sure that the deck can be consistent enough through Tutors to get what we need when we need it. This deck is more reliant on Tutors than card draw since the deck needs specific cards to win, and we can't battle other decks on the card advantage war, so we'll beat them through card quality rather than card quantity. Demonic Tutor, Grim Tutor, Imperial Seal, and Vampiric Tutor are all competitive Commander staples that go in every deck that runs black. Sidisi Undead Vizier is a tutor that's castable with food chain mana, which allows you to grab a combo finisher and close out the game. The deck is creature heavy, so having a creature to sacrifice to Diabolic Intent isn't a difficult task to achieve for a redundant Demonic Tutor effect. Dimir Machinations has 2 main targets when transmuted, one being Food Chain and the other being Reckless Bushwhacker, the only 3 CMC combo finisher in the deck. Green Sun Zenith will usually be used as a ramp spell by grabbing Dryad Arbor, however it can get a couple utility creatures and Skull Molcher, the only green combo finisher. Crop Rotation will usually get Gaia's Cradle or Ancient Tomb, however there are a couple other interesting options too. You can grab Dryad Arbor if you need a creature to sacrifice, you can get Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth if you're having trouble casting Necropotence, or you can grab my personal favorite, Westvale Abbey, and start hitting your opponents with the giant flippin' demon. Plunge into Darkness is a very unique card which you can use to sacrifice a ton of creatures to gain a good chunk of life, which then feeds into the other ability to search your deck for either Food Chain or a combo finisher. Use your life total liberally. Don't be afraid to go down to 1 life if you think it will enable you to win the game. Since there aren't multiple copies of cards including basic land in the deck, Tainted Pact will let you search for any card. Although this deck mostly relies on Tutors to get the job done, it'd be foolish not to run card draw to complement the Tutors. This deck is running black, so we have access to some of the best card draw engines in Commander. Sensei's Divining's Top's ability to manipulate our draws for just 1 mana or draw a card in a pinch is the type of effect that this deck really needs since it isn't running blue. Therefore it can't use blue's powerful card manipulation cantrips like Ponder or Preordain. This deck runs a ton of 1 toughness creatures like the Kobolds and the Mana Dorks. Plus the deck runs a good chunk of sacrifice outlets, creating the perfect conditions for Skullclamp to really shine. Dark Confidant is a competitive Commander staple for any deck that runs black. You get an additional card during each of your turns for a 2 mana initial investment. That much card advantage is well worth it, plus he's great food chain fodder. Skull Molcher is usually used as a combo finisher, however it can be used as solid card draw in a pinch. Necropotence is one of, if not the, most powerful card draw engine in Magic. Even though the 3 black mana cost is difficult to get in a 3-color deck, its sheer power overrides any downsides it might have. The deck sacrifices a ton of creatures, so Smothering Abomination Fecundity will end up drawing you a good chunk of cards. They are also both combo finishers. Sylvan Library is the best card draw engine in green. Its enchantment both smooths out your draws and can draw you a ton of cards. Remember, use your life total liberally in competitive Commander. You're more likely to lose with a lack of cards in hand rather than being at a low life total. Wheel of Fortune is the only thing that red does contribute to card draw. Being able to get 7 new cards in your hand is a powerful and rare effect for this deck. Ad Nauseam is Necropotence's big brother. It will get you an absurd amount of cards. If you resolve Ad Nauseam right before your turn, you will most likely win the game on your turn. Counter spells run rampant in competitive Commander. You have to be prepared for them. And this deck tries its hardest to make blue players' lives miserable. And that just really tickles my fancy. Vexing Shusher just wiggles his little finger no for 1 mana, then blue players are left with nothing to do with all their open land that they are planning to use to counter your food chain. Play City of Solitude to make sure your opponents can't do anything to disrupt you during your turn, which you should be using to win the game on that turn, or you'll be giving the game to the player on your left as they go off on their turn without being disrupted. Autumn's Veil protects your spells from counter magic, or it does a good job at baiting a counter spell. Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast counter your opponent's counter spells. This always makes my day countering a counter spell with a deck that doesn't run blue. These cards are the ones that enable you to win when you have infinite mana and Kobolds off one of the combos in the deck. Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat close out the game by draining your opponents for infinite life off of infinite Kobolds dying to a sacrifice outlet. They can also just drain your opponents for a ton of life without comboing off. Ogre Battle Driver ends the game by giving you your infinite Kobolds +2/+0 in haste, letting you swing in for infinite damage. He also provides haste for a few combos in the deck. Perforos finishes off your opponents with infinite Kobolds entering the battlefield, or it can just do a ton of damage without comboing off. If you play Reckless Bushwhacker for a surge cost, he pumps up your infinite army of Kobolds so you can swing in for infinite damage. Skull Mulcher and Smothering Abomination close out the game by drawing your entire deck, then using your infinite mana to play another combo finisher like Perforos to kill off your opponents. Fecundity and Goblin Bombardment both are non-creature combo finishers, so you can't cast them off infinite food chain mana. However, they are still effective cards. The following are cards that are in the deck, but didn't fall under any of the previous categories. A few of the combos in the deck require your creatures to have haste, and Lightning Greaves gets the job done. It also can give Shroud to key creatures. Both Eternal Witness and Regrowth are good at getting either a combo piece or a combo finisher out of your graveyard. Rift Sweeper is in the deck to get food chain out of exile if an opponent exiles it with a card like Return to Dust. Parallel Lives is part of a few combos in the deck, and it's just nice to get an absurd amount of Kobolds every time you cast Prossh. This is the land base in the deck. Ancient Tomb ramps you at the cost of producing only colorless mana, and costing 2 life every time you tap it for mana. Arid Mesa, Bloodstained Mire, Marsh Flats, Misty Rainforest, Polluted Delta, Scalding Tarn, Verdant Catacombs, Windswept Heath, and Wooded Foothills are all the fetch lands, including the off-color fetch lands, that are allowed to be played in the Jund color combination. Fetch lands are incredibly flexible and fantastic since they search for the color that you need by either grabbing the original dual lands or the shock lands. Badlands, Bayou, and Taiga are the original dual lands for Jund. The original dual lands are the best lands in Magic. Unfortunately also the most expensive. Blood Crypt, Overgrown Tomb, and Stomping Ground are the Shocklands for Jund. Shocklands are redundant copies of the original dual lands, with the only drawback being that you have to pay 2 life for them to enter the battlefield untapped. They are also about 10% as expensive price-wise. City of Brass and Mana Confluence are redundant command towers at the laughably irrelevant price of 1 life when you tap them for mana. Command towers and auto-include in any multicolored commander deck. Dryad Arbor is in the deck so you can fetch it with Green Sun Zenith. Exotic Orchard sucks when you go first and this is the land you have to play. Other than that specific circumstance, this card is another command tower about 95% of the time. I only run one copy of each of these basics so Tainted Pack works in the deck. I use 6 basics so I have less of a chance to be completely blown out by a card like Back to Basics or Blood Moon. Gaia's Cradle is one of the best lands for a creature heavy deck. It's also an excellent target for crop rotation. Grove of the Burn Willows is an untapped dual land with a very minimal downside of gaining your opponent's 1 life, and the card not being searchable with a fetch land. Reflecting Pool is usually just another command tower, although it's useless if it's your only land on the battlefield. Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth is just a slightly better swamp that makes Necropotence much easier to cast. Westvale Abbey may only produce colorless mana, however a 9/7 flying lifelink indestructible haste demon is pretty powerful, even in competitive Commander. Food Chain is the main win con in most Prossh decks. Okay, let me explain how a combo works for the uninitiated. Prossh and at least 2 Kobolds need to be on the battlefield, depending on Commander tax. You exile Prossh, getting 7 mana of 1 Jund color, and exile 2 Kobolds for the other Jund colors. You can then cast Prossh, getting 8 Kobolds. You can then repeat this process an infinite amount of times, netting Kobolds every time you cast Prossh. Cryptolith Rite plus Mana Echoes plus Haste plus a Sacrifice Outlet for Prossh gives you infinite mana and Kobolds. Mana Echoes gives you all the colorless mana that you need, and Cryptolith Rite turns those Kobolds into Birds of Paradise, but you need haste to tap them. Then you need a way to kill Prossh, so you can cast him over and over again since Prossh can't self-cannibalize. Yeah, this combo's pretty convoluted and doesn't happen too often. Ashnod's Altar plus Cryptolith Rite plus Haste gives you infinite mana and Kobolds. This one's a little bit more reasonable since Ashnod's Altar does double duty, being able to provide colorless mana and a sacrifice outlet for Prossh. Here's another convoluted combo. Cryptolith Rite plus Parallel Lives plus Haste plus a sacrifice outlet for Prossh gives you infinite mana and Kobolds. Having double the Birds of Paradise Kobolds gives you enough mana to cast Prossh an infinite amount of times. Phyrexian Altar plus Parallel Lives equals infinite mana and Kobolds. Doubling the Kobolds gives you enough mana to cast Prossh infinitely. Ashnod's Altar plus Phyrexian Altar. When the 2 altars combine, they create infinite mana and Kobolds. Mana Echoes plus Phyrexian Altar gives you infinite mana and Kobolds. Mana Echoes gives you all the colorless mana you need, and Phyrexian Altar will provide Jund colors using Prossh and 2 Kobolds. In competitive Commander, picking your opening hand correctly is a key part of victory, much more so than casual Commander since games can very easily be over before turn 4. That means your opening hand could be about 60% of the cards you'll see that game, if you only draw for your draw step. Since the opening hand is so important, what should the opening hand look like? I'll draw up some random hands and give my opinions on those hands. I'll give you examples of hands up and down the spectrum, from trash hand to god hand. Forest Sensei's Divinity Top, Dark Ritual, Priest of Titania, Lightning Greaves, Diabolic Intent, and Parallel Lives. What the heck are you going to do with this hand? Top a few times and lose the game? Just a garbage hand. Grove of the Burn Willows, Llanowar Elves, Fyndhorn Elves, Red Elemental Blast, Demonic Tutor, Beast Within, and Damnation. This hand's main problem is that it only has 1 land and no way of producing black. It has 2 playable removal spells and some ramp. However, this hand can't do much else unless you draw black mana either during your first or second turn. I would not keep this hand. Bayou, Mountain, Forest, Dark Ritual, Blood Artist, Nature's Lore, and Mana Echoes. This one's really tempting to keep. I'd keep it, although it's a huge risk. This hand doesn't have any card draw or tutors, so you have to depend on your next few draws. However, this hand has 1 combo piece and a combo finisher, and an excellent amount of ramp, allowing for turn 3 Prossh, a decent turn to play him. Overall, a semi-mediocre hand with the possibility of turning into a great hand. Bloodstained Mire, Taiga, Urborg, Imperial Seal, Blood Artist, Regrowth, and Skull Vulture. What saves this hand is Imperial Seal, which enables us to grab ramp, something this hand is desperately missing. Then the hand gives you the option of grabbing Imperial Seal again with Regrowth, to either get card draw or food chain if you're able to go off by then. The other problem with this hand is the redundant combo finisher with Skull Mulcher. It's basically a dead card in hand that might have use if Blood Artist gets answered. Scalding Tarn, Dark Ritual, Deathrite Shaman, Mana Vault, Dark Confidant, Blood Artist, and Food Chain. This hand is very close to a turn 2 win. All you need to do is draw a land or creature off your next draw or Dark Confidant trigger. This hand has everything: ramp, card draw, a combo enabler, and a combo finisher. Bloodstained Mire, Wooded Foothills, Mana Crypt, Llanowar Elves, Priest of Titania, Blood Artist, and Food Chain. This hand lets you combo off turn 2, although your opponents are very likely to answer something. Definitely an all-in, make or break hand. I want to thank you for watching my deck tech on my competitive version of Prossh, Sky Raider of Kur. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'd appreciate it if you smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. And again, thanks for watching.